There are several ways to become a leader. Um, and it really depends on who you are and what situation you're in. But quick question, and because most people can attribute leadership to position, but does a position automatically make you a leader? We'll watch this video to see if that's really true. If you haven't seen The Office, this is Michael Scott. He is the manager of a branch of a paper company, but we'll see if that necessarily makes him a leader.
They go, God, we've never worked in a place like this before. You're hilarious. People say I am the best boss. They go, God, we've never worked in a place like this before. You're hilarious. And you get the best out of us. I think that pretty much sums it up. I found it at Spencer Gifts.
So Michael bought himself a World's Best Boss cup. And if you haven't seen the show, he's pretty much not that in any way, shape, or form. He's a perfect bad example. So we'll talk about him probably a lot in this class. But just because he's the manager doesn't mean he's a leader. Doesn't mean people want to follow him or do what he says. There are really, frankly, and this is included, having a position is included, but there are lots of ways to be recognized and then reinforced as a leader. And that's different. People to recognize you as a leader and then to reinforce your leadership position are two different things. So first we will talk about appointment. This is when you're hired into a position or promoted or appointed into a position. Just because you have the title, though, doesn't mean people are going to follow you. You have to constantly reinforce your role in order to be a leader, for them to actually be able to follow you. And that's where your skills and techniques come into consideration, where your abilities, your experience, that's where that stuff comes into play. People to actually follow you and want to follow you as a leader. Election. Just because someone's elected doesn't necessarily mean everybody's got their back. So you might be respected and admired in order to get to that point, but you have to keep working on it. Even those who elected you might turn their back on you. Think of presidential elections. People vote someone, and then if they don't do what they like, they'll get mad later and no longer support them. Or people who didn't vote never liked them in the first place. And so you always have to be reinforcing, again, through your skills and your techniques, your position and why you're in your position. Just because you're a leader or you've been elected doesn't mean you're the best man for the job. It just means that the majority thought that you were. And so you do have to constantly be improving yourself. Doesn't mean you're just done. Another one is emergence. This is one that I like. It's just where somebody just kind of rises to the top, step up to the plate, so to speak. They're often respected not because they're the best person for the job, but because they took the initiative and did something about it. If you've seen Lost, the TV show, there's a main character, his name is Jack, and he is kind of naturally becomes the leader of the group. He just kind of emerges as the leader of the group, for no obvious reason. There's lots of different reasons why, but it might just be that he just emerged as a leader because he was naturally that way, naturally good at it. That's emergence. It's not a bad way to become a leader because people then naturally just kind of recognize that. Charisma. This is everyone's favorite. This is one of the main qualities and personality traits people expect to see in someone who is a leader. Personal magnetism or charm is a way to explain charisma. People want to do what you want them to do. People like to follow someone with charisma or charismatic leader. They're admired, they're respected, they're even loved, and people are very loyal to them. It's a good place to be a charismatic leader. People then want to have you as their leader, or they put you in that position because they like you, because they love you. They're not following you because they're afraid of consequences, but because they want to make you happy and because they love you, or because they know that you think you want the best for them. It's really, these people have a relationship of trust, often, but they might not. It might just be that their personality is such that people want to follow them. The halo effect. Going back to Lost, Jack, his character is a doctor. And maybe because of his expertise in that field, people just see him as a leader. My husband's an elementary school teacher, and when we see at community events that have nothing to do with elementary school, people naturally expect my husband to do the disciplining of the kids because of this halo effect. where because he's a leader in one situation, people naturally attribute the leadership role to him in other situations. Think of celebrities that are asking you on TV to donate to causes. They don't have any like expertise in that area, but because they're a leader in entertainment, we attribute leadership role to them in other situations. It's called the halo effect. And you'll see it even in your life. If you're ever a manager, people outside of that position will often see you as a leader. Some early theories on what made a person a leader, trait theories, kind of similar to the ones we talked about before, like charisma. Someone gets into a leadership role because of their characteristics or traits, like charisma, for example. Then there's great man theory, where they believe that leaders are born with characteristics that would result in their leadership no matter what they did. This might include their sex. Like a male is more likely to become a leader. Their strength, their attractiveness. If you are attractive, unfortunately, people are just more likely to follow you. Your family, your birth order, how smart you are, how creative you are going to have a lot of say on it, kind of like predestination. You don't have a lot of control over whether or not you're going to become a leader. You're either born with it or you're not. This clip isn't working, but it's a clip from Ever After, where the incumbent king says, "I don't want to be king." But his father says, "You don't have a choice. You were born with this role, and so you're just going to be king no matter what you do." It's an interesting idea. Maybe there are characteristics born in all of us that make us more likely or less likely to become a leader, but I don't like that this precludes the idea of gaining those skills, becoming capable of watching them yourself, or becoming, a leader yourself. Attribution theory, where people, because you look and act a certain way, people are just going to expect you to be a leader. You might not be particularly good at something or be charismatic, but you have a commanding presence, and so people attribute leadership to you. Or like the team won, so the coach must be amazing. Or maybe the team won just because the team was great. If you've done something well, people just say that you're a great leader, even if it has nothing to do with leadership. Behavioral theory, leadership on the basis of your behavior. Good leaders will act in a certain way at certain times. So when you need to problem solve, you step up to the plate and you problem solve. You lead a song when it needs to be done. You lead a game well when it needs to be done. You resolve conflict and discipline when it needs to be done. This behavioral theory is actually pretty applicable to our field, because as recreation specialists, we act as we when in Rome kind of idea. Like we act as we need to act depending on the situation. So it might be that this is a good one for our career. None of these are like the right way to become a leader, but maybe behavioral theory is a good way to attribute to how we become a leader, a reinforced leader in recreation, because we just need to be able to act as we need to. We need to be able to be firm when needed, but we also need to be able to be fun and goofy if we need to be able to lead a game, or we need to be able to be safe and serious when we're in a tough situation. It's just a good one that might be applicable to our career. But there's lots of different ways to become a leader. The main point, though, is that in order to be a leader, you have to be, number one, recognized as a leader, and second, accepted. You need to get them to want to follow you. You need to make them loyal to you and love you the way a charismatic leader would, whether or not you feel you have that charisma. And that's the kind of the big challenge to becoming a leader.